Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis. And I always like to introduce this wonderful team that God has provided me. Let me start out with my faithful assistant, Faith, who basically has been my assistant since the day she was born. She was about 3 weeks old, I guess, when her dad brought her to church, and he would work the soundboard with one hand and hold her with the other. And then when she was able to crawl, she just crawled right up onto the stage. So I just left her there, and I just stepped over her as I was talking. And we would put her on the podium, as a baby while I did announcements, and that was pretty cool. I think people paid more attention because she was up there. But she grew up like 6 blocks from my house, and her dad was a tow truck driver, so he would do these out-of-town tows, and he'd drop the girls at my place, and we'd do projects together because I always have projects. And so when Faith said at 14 and a half, I want a real job, I was like, oh yeah, come work for me. So I hired her for my ozone business. And then when we went live for the pandemic, I asked her if she wanted to be my ministerial assistant, and she said, oh yeah. It's like, okay. And so the team began to build again. So she's the person in the background that does all the work. We like for you to say hi, hello, good morning as a way of greeting us, because when we're in a facility, I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me. Here, I get a number. I don't even get a name, so I don't know who's here. But when you do that, when you say hi, good morning, hello, Faith is the one that answers you as me. And I go back every time and look and see if there's anything else I need to say. And it's only happened maybe twice in 3 years. So she knows me better than I know myself. She's also our soloist. And today's music, I can't even remember the title. What was it?
Energy and Motion by Reverend Barry Lane Silver.
Okay, Energy and Motion. So anyway, thank you for being here, Faith. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. And then there is my partner in crime, the wise and powerful Oz, who was my first baby practitioner, meaning he took all of his training with me. And he was my board president for like 7-8 years, something like that, before he moved away to Florida. And we lost the ability to have him in the service with us. Well, when we went live for the pandemic, I asked him if he was willing to be part of the team again, and he said yes. And so here we are. The team is back together. Got the band back together. Oz is available for what we call our 1-minute miracle at the end, and I'll tell you more about that. But he does the invocation and the benediction. That's the practitioner on duty. So thank you for being here, Oz. I couldn't do this without you. Love you. All right. And so let me see what else I need to say here. Oh, the topic today is we're doing the Back to Basics series, which is the first 4 chapters of our textbook, which is the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. Last week we did the thing itself. So today we're doing the way it works. All right. There's a watch party button that you can use to invite all of your friends so they can see what kind of Sunday service they can expect. And then you can talk amongst yourselves because it's private. So hit that watch party button and invite all of your friends. And just, if they have any questions, you can answer them. All right. So I invite you now, whether you're watching in real time or later on, to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Presence of God, right here, right now, for God is in everything. God, as we conceive of it, is infinite and eternal. And therefore, God must be right here, right now, wherever and whenever you are, and whatever and wherever we are. For God is in all things, as all things, creating all things, maintaining and renewing all things in each moment. And we know that that presence permeates our service here, bringing a blessing for right here, right now, wherever that right here and right now is. I know this is good and very good. I give thanks that this is so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. All right. This next song is, before I say that, if you're here, say hi, hello, good morning. Even if you're stopping by later, just say hi so that we know that you stopped by. And if you like something you hear, whether that be something I say or Faith sings or Oz prays, use that like button. And if you love something, by all means, send us hearts, because we love to get love. But if something strikes you as really powerful, please use that wow button. It really lets us know that we're on track. So we love that feedback. In the meantime, here is another song. This one's by Reverend Fairy Lane Silver that she wrote while she was in practitioner training, that reminds us all that we are all connected.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. For God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I receive, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. Yes, we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it.
Say hi, good morning, hello, however you'd like to greet us. If you like something that is said, use the like button. If you love something that you hear, send us hearts, because we love to get love. And if something strikes you as powerful, by all means, use that wow button. Let us know that we are on track. So without further ado, we're going to have Faith singing, and I already lost the song again. Faith is going to sing a Reverend Fairy Lane Silver song.
Energy and motion.
Energy and Motion, that's the one.
From an urge in my heart to a thought in my mind, it's in motion, energy in motion. When I feel in my heart, I can see in my mind they're in motion, energy in motion, moving as a line to body, moving as a line to body, moving as a line to body, manifestation. I am perfect, I'm whole in my heart and in my soul. They're in motion, energy in motion, trusting in the source and that I am on my course. They're in motion, energy in motion, moving as a line to body, moving as a line to body, moving as a line to body, manifestation, transformation. From energy in my heart and the thought in my mind, live in motion, energy in motion. When I see in my heart and I see in my mind, it's in motion, energy in motion. They're in motion, energy in motion. They're in motion, energy in motion. It's in motion, energy in motion.
I'm doing this now because I don't want to upset the dog.
There.
I am definitely clapping. Thank you so much, Faith. That's the first time we've done that song and it sounded great.
Thank you.
All right. So we're moving on to the topic now, the way it works. And Ernest Holmes, our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, said, "We live in a universe of love as well as a universe of law. One is the complement of the other. The universe of love pulsating with feeling, with emotion, and the universe of law, the executor of all feeling and all emotion." So that's basically the way it works, is through love and law. So we're going to talk a little bit about love and a little bit about law, just so you get an idea of what love and law mean in our context. Love is not the kind of romantic love that we seek in other individuals. It is the love of God flowing through us. I kind of visualize it like a funnel, right? That God's love comes in like this and goes out like this, and another funnel. Because we know that we are attracted to someone to be in relationship with them because there is a matching signal, so to speak, of God's love. That we know that God lives there, right? We acknowledge it, we see it and feel it. And so that's what urges us to go forward with a relationship. We have to be careful that we don't get caught up in either idealizing that person because God is as God is. It doesn't mean that we're perfect. It means that we're perfect on the inside, not necessarily on the outside. But we also don't want to get caught up in making judgments about things that we don't know. Like, it's very easy for us to say, oh, well, he does that because of that, or she does that because, you know, her background or whatever. We have to be very careful about that because we don't know what's going on inside someone else's head. We might think that they hate us. We might think that they don't care about us. We might think a lot of things, and we do not know what's going on in their mind. So it's very important that we both don't idealize them and then, or have judgment about them. We want to accept them just as they are, so that when God's love comes through, we're able to accept it. Now, Ernest Holmes spent a lot of time talking about spiritual law because he found Ralph Waldo Emerson to begin with, who had an essay called Spiritual Law. And then when he was doing all of this work, he found the workings of Judge Thomas Troward, who was a Christian, English Christian judge in India. And what he did is he wanted his judgments to be fair. So he studied the Hindu people, and he studied their religion, so that he could, when he passed judgment, he took all of their cultural norms and all of their religious beliefs and everything else into consideration. And so because of that, the Indian people just adored him. But when he was studying the Hindu faith, what he found was that there were commonalities to his native Christianity. And he began to realize that there are spiritual truths, spiritual laws that every religion talks about. So he wrote a bunch of work on spiritual law. You know, being a lawyer, that was, of course, or a judge, that, well, you have to be a lawyer to be a judge. But being a judge and a lawyer, you know, to him, that was like finding a nugget of gold, or, you know, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for him. But when Ernest Holmes found it, he realized that the universe does operate on spiritual law. And he got so enthused about it that he ran around the country lecturing about it. And he focused most of his teaching about that, on the spiritual laws. Now, some of us are familiar with the spiritual laws of the universe, like the law of cause and effect, which most people talk about as karma, meaning that if I have a thought, an action, or a deed, it is going to cause a ripple out into the world and come back to me as whatever I send out. Okay. So if I send good things out, I get good back. If I send negative things out, I get negative back. Remember, Dr. Ernest Holmes always said, we create more of what we focus our attention on. So if we're focused on that negative stuff, the reverberation that goes out into the universe and returns back to us is a negative vibration and will cause us to create negative things. That's why complaining is such an issue. If you notice, when someone complains all the time, what's happening is their life just turns to doo-doo. And that is because when you're complaining all the time, you're focused on all the things that are wrong in your life. In spiritual law, what we want to do is we want to be focused on the things that are good in our life. Be grateful for that which we've been given. Be grateful for the home we live in. Be grateful that we have a home, that we have a job, that we have sufficient funds. Like, I feel bad for people who are in Lynn and my situation, who do not have the resources to be able to get what he needs, because I'm really thankful. I'm really grateful that if Kaiser won't approve something that he needs, we buy it from Amazon. For instance, you know, there was the circulating air mattress that he needed for his pressure sores. They eventually did authorize it, but by the time they showed up with it, we already had the other one in place that I bought from Amazon. The same thing with the raised commode, right? He needed that. That wasn't a medical necessity, so we went out and bought that. But I feel bad for those that don't have the resources to kind of do that. Now, the latest thing is the gel overlay mattress. We'll see. If that doesn't get approved, then we'll go out and buy one. But operating from a state of gratitude, I feel, creates more of a magnetic attraction to us. And so if you're one of those people who complain all the time, think about that for a moment, how awful your life gets when you're complaining all the time. And in those moments when you have been in a state of gratitude, you notice how wonderful your life turned, right? So that's the law of cause and effect. The law of circulation, we already know. That's why we talk about tithing so much, because when you are from a place of gratitude, when you are putting into the universe something, it's going to circle back to you. So we say, you do the 10%, you get 10%, back. You get 100 times back. But I had a person in my congregation one time who was really trying to see at what point would he miss the money. And so he began to tithe more than the 10%, and he just kept tithing more and more and more. And he kept getting so much back that he could never completely demolish what he was getting, right? And so that was a good teaching for me to see that in action, because the universe does provide to us that which we when we put our energy out there, it provides that same amount of energy back. And that's because we live in this cyclical universe. And things come and go, and things rotate. And, quantum physics says that energy cannot be destroyed. It can only transform. And so what we say is that the energy of God can't be destroyed, and that it always transforms into what it is that we need at the moment. And a lot of times when we come from a place of need, when we say, I need this, we set a different thing in motion. So what we want to know is that we are completely provided with everything that we need. Now, you hear a lot about the law of attraction, especially on TikTok and Facebook these days. We've been talking about that. Let's see, Ernest Holmes started talking in 1919, and he started talking about the law of attraction. But it gets taught very simplistically. It's not as easy as all of that. It really means that you have to look into your subjective mind and see what beliefs are operating, keeping you from the good that you are manifesting, right? Because let me put the teaching symbol up. I want to kind of talk about the teaching symbol at this point, because that helps us understand what's been going on. Okay, so this is our teaching symbol, and we call it that because it's a way for us to explain what it is we teach, right? So we have the unbroken unity of life, which is the circle that is encompassing this V, right? And that there is a circle with no beginning and no end. In other words, we have that circulating universe, right? And it just keeps going back around. And it also signifies that there is a unity of all life, that there is only one. There is no two or others. There's only the one, right? And then because we don't believe in parting out God, that we can't part out God, but we want to be able to talk about it in a way, we had to separate it into 3 sections so that we could discuss the different aspects of God and give you a visual representation of what that means. So that top part represents conscious mind, whether that's in God or in us. And so in conscious mind is where I decide what it is that I want to create, right? And so I always liken it to making something out of Play-Doh, right? You get an idea of what you want to create in that conscious mind. And then in the middle is the subjective mind, and that's like a computer hard drive. So all of the circumstances, all of the events that have happened in your life and all of the reactions you've had to them are all stored in that middle section. So when I talk about the beliefs that need to be looked at in order for the law of attraction to actually work for us, that's what I'm talking about, because we form the beliefs in that subjective mind based on what our experiences have been and our reactions to those experiences. For instance, say in the conscious mind, I decide I want to create $1 million. And in the subjective mind, I have a belief that says I can only have this much, or I don't deserve that, or whatever it is. And so it's going to bounce right back. You see this V that goes through the 3 sections. So the bottom section, hang on one second. The bottom section is form, and that is the result of that thinking through the subjective mind into form. For instance, we have a seed, we plant it in the soil, and it produces a flower. Well, at the end of the year, at the end of the growing year, that flower goes back to the nothingness from which it came. That's the process of creation. That is the natural way of creation. But what happens to us if we have a belief in the middle that says, no, you can't get that, is it never actually reaches to the place of form. It comes down through the conscious mind, hits the subjective mind, and bounces right back. Or we have the other thing that happens, which is we're operating unconsciously from all of our beliefs. And so it begins in the middle section and never actually has any conscious thought attached to it, which you might think is a good thing, except that if you have negative beliefs, guess what you're creating, right? And so we want to make sure that we're doing the process in order to utilize the law of attraction. Now, you're not going to be told that on TikTok or on Facebook, right? What you're going to be told on TikTok or Facebook is just do these affirmations and, visualize this, and it's just automatically going to happen. That is true, except if you have limiting beliefs that are keeping it from happening, then there's no way to create it. There's no way to manifest it. So it's nice that they say that. It's nice that they present the ideas of the law of attraction. And for some people, it works really, really well, but not for everybody because of our subjective unconscious. Let me think about what other laws I want to talk about. There's a lot of different laws, spiritual laws. Dr. Ernest Holmes, when he founded the Institute of Religious Science, his whole thing was that whatever religion you were from, he could teach you about spiritual law, and then you would go back to your particular faith and teach other people about it. And so it would get incorporated into your religion. Well, most of the major religions were not on board with that. And so it became logical to all of his followers that we create a church. He was kind of against the idea of church because he wanted it to be more educational than bureaucratic. But they won out, and so now we have churches of religious science. We have over 400 of them all across the world. But anyway, so when we're talking about spiritual law, what we're saying is that we create from both love and law. Now, one of the things that I like about the spiritual laws as we teach them is that they're impartial. They work the same for everyone, and it doesn't really matter who you are. Gravity works the same on everyone, right? Electricity works the same for everyone. No matter who turns the switch on, it turns on. It doesn't matter what race, what color, what gender, what orientation. It just doesn't matter. I visited Tennessee when I was about 18, up in the hills. And there was this lady who had electricity in her house for the first time in her life. And she was so proud of this electricity that she would walk over and she'd go, you come over here, you turn it on. You walk over here, you can turn it off. And she was so proud of that whole process. And I thought about it even as a young girl before I knew all of this. I thought about how amazing it is that no matter who uses electricity, it works, right? And so she didn't have to have an education. She didn't have to have a certain socioeconomic background. She didn't have to have anything other than an electrician put it in and the knowledge that she could turn it on and turn it off. And that's the way the spiritual laws work, because it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter, what you're going to do in the future. It works the same for everybody. It's impersonal. There's no preferences. No matter who you are, God loves you the same as everyone else. And so everything works exactly the same way for everyone. And you can never do anything to lose that love of God because it's inherent within us. It is built into our DNA. True unconditional love that we seek in relationships is actually seeking God's unconditional love, because no one on earth can give that to us the way God can, right? We can practice unconditional love, but most of the time we're not 100% with it. And so we're attracted to people in relationship because we inherently know that God lives there too. And we're trying to reveal more of that divine love unconsciously, just trying to find the perfect conduit through which God's love can come to us. So when we realize this, we stop expecting the other person to behave a certain way for us to feel loved. We're looking, for the other person to provide what is God's and only God's to provide. And as long as we're attached to love coming in a certain way, to be packaged in a certain way, look a certain way, feel a certain way, or have to have certain actions, God can't come through that idea. So when we look at love and we look at law, what we recognize is that not only is it impartial and impersonal, which some people don't like the impersonal aspect of it, but it's because we have free will. Okay. Now, let me go back a minute, just explain what I mean by impersonal. We have a habit as human doings of creating God in our own image. Because we want God to be a wise judge in the sky. We want God to be a father. We want God to be a mother. We want God to be, some person. And the reality of it is that God is not a personal person, right? It's not masculine. It's not feminine. It is an it. It is a divine intelligence. And quantum physics backs me up on that. It says the world is made of the same molecules. Everything in the world is made of the same molecules. So if they bump up against each other really rapidly, we end up with this desk that I'm sitting at. If you slow it down a little bit, you get people and animals. And if you really slow it down a lot, you get air and water. And so what the quantum physicists say is that there's an intelligence that knows how to make a desk by rapidly firing those molecules against each other, right? Well, they call it an intelligence. I call it a divine intelligence because I really believe that it is God. That intelligence is God creating, co-creating with us. And so when I talk about the love of God being impersonal or God being impersonal, what I'm saying is that there's not a person who has preferences for a certain race or a certain color or a certain gender or a certain, anything. When I was raised in Orthodox Judaism, there was a belief that God preferred little boys because women, little girls who grow up into women, are damaged goods because we were the ones that talked Adam into taking a bite of the apple that the devil wanted us to do, right, in the Garden of Eden. And so there was this whole philosophy around that, women are unholy and whatever, evil. And so God preferred boys and men over girls and women. And it was very hard growing up with that idea. When I came into religious science, I got very excited when I was told that God didn't have any preferences, because then I was free to be who I am and know that God loved me anyway, right? And that was very comforting to me. I know it's not comforting to everyone because we like to think of God as this father figure or this mother figure or whatever. But the comfort that I have in knowing all of that is because I know that there aren't any preferences, that God doesn't prefer white race over blacks and Hispanics and Asians. God doesn't have any preferences in that. God doesn't have any preferences for your orientation. God doesn't like straight people over gay people or vice versa. God doesn't, operate that way. And so for me, that's very comforting to know that no matter who is practicing this philosophy, they are loved equally by God. Okay. So that's where I come from on that impersonalness. It's impartial because God will let us make our own mistakes because we have free will, right? It's not like there's a 911 God that we can call up and go, hey, I'm having this issue I need you to help me with. And God goes, hang on, let me put my running shoes on. I'll be right down, and rescues us from the situation. That's not how it works. How it works is that I have free will to exercise my preferences, and by doing so, I suffer the consequences because there is a law of cause and effect, right? So I suffer the consequences of those things that I choose to do. And so it's impartial in that God lets us just do our due, right? I get these questions all the time. Well, what about this situation? Why did God let that happen? I got news for you. It isn't a matter of God letting it happen. It's a matter of we have free will, so we make choices that may or may not be good choices. And when we make those not so good choices, God does not step in and keep us from making those choices. So that is the answer to why didn't God step in and take care of that, right? It's because of the free will portion of it. So we want to make sure that we are preparing our consciousness to be able to receive the goodness that we are asking for, so that the laws can support us in doing it and the love can provide it for us, right? Love and law is the way it works. So I like this little, I don't know if I got that. I really should put that in here. Let me see if I have it. I don't think I do. No, I don't. It's this acronym that I like to use. RURTR. Are you ready to receive? And it just happens to be the steps of our spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of prayer. Recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and release. So RURTR, are you ready to receive, is a way of affirming or reminding myself that I need to prepare my consciousness to receive that which I'm utilizing the law of attraction to manifest. All right. And I'll get into our spiritual mind treatment when we do how to use it the final week. But just so you know that our form of prayer is not a begging or beseeching of God. It is knowing already that this is ours. And so we come from a place of gratitude first and a knowingness that not only do we deserve it, but it's here right now. That's affirmative prayer. All right, so I've prepared myself to be open to the influx of God, whatever form it's taking. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about love or money or health when we say that. It's the same with all of it. If I've prepared myself to be open to love, I must be open to all the ways in which it comes to me. I can't get focused on seeing love in a certain way or someone acting a certain way. We have to be willing to unplug or unclog the funnels. Remember I said that I see the funnel like this and like this. Well, we have to unclog those funnels. And the way we do that is to turn to our subjective mind and see what is in the way. Faith versus belief. That's another one that in the way it works. A lot of us are familiar with belief, right? I can believe something and I can change that belief. When we have faith in something, we can't change it once it's there. It's like it's solid because it comes up from the roots of our being, that belief. And so it's not like we can change that belief. And let me stop real quickly and say what we have faith in. We don't have faith in like faith healing, for example, where people are taught to just believe it. It doesn't matter what it is, just believe it. Our faith is in a knowingness about the process. Dr. Fred Vogt, one of my mentor ministers, used to say to the congregation, don't leave your brain at the door. We don't want you to leave it in the parking lot. We want you to come in and we want you to question and we want you to experiment with this so that it solidifies in you that it is true. Okay. And that's what faith is. For example, when I sit down in a chair, I have faith that when I sit down in it, it is going to hold me. I have faith that the sun is going to rise every single day. It's not a belief. You can't change the belief. And, if I changed my belief that said the sun wouldn't rise, it wouldn't mean that it wouldn't rise, right? It would just be my belief that it wouldn't. But when we have faith, it is so embedded in our mind, body, and spirit that we know without a doubt that that is true, right? And that's faith. So when I talk about changing the beliefs that are in your subjective mind, what you're doing is you are transforming those beliefs into a faith that carries you forward. For instance, if I believe that I cannot afford something, let's just put it that way. Say I believe I can't afford something, and I start doing my work and transforming that belief, then I find that I have faith that I can afford whatever I want, right? And that is a faith of knowing that God is providing whatever I want so I can afford it, if that makes any sense. So I want us to be really clear about faith versus belief. I also want us to be very clear about superstition, because we get very superstitious about how the laws work. For instance, we'll say something and it is not what we're supposed to be saying. And instead of just affirming the opposite and moving on, we get all caught up in, oh my God, I said this and now something awful is going to happen. Luckily, every thought that we have is not creative. Okay. It has the potentiality of being creative, but every thought itself is not creative. There's a filter there that keeps that from happening. What Dr. Ernest Holmes was talking about was the preponderance of our thoughts. So if, for example, all of my thoughts are negative towards whatever, then that is just going to, what we resist persists. So if I'm resisting this human being over here because of something they've done, and I keep focusing my attention on that, that person will never, ever, ever go away, right? And so when we get superstitious about what we've said, it's really not warranted, because each thought is not creative on its own. There are three things that make creativity happen. One is the preponderance of our thoughts. If I have a preponderance of thought going towards this house I want to create in, let's say Florida, for example, if I have a preponderance of my thoughts going in that direction, then I have one of the pillars already set up. The second thing is the emotion, the feeling of it. And so we need to, because I say that the feelings are like gas that fuels the car, right? Our feelings, our emotions fuel the ideas that we have, or the thoughts, the preponderance of our thoughts. That fuels it. So if I feel good about it, it's going to help. Love always is more creative than hate. When we create through hate, it just turns into a nasty experience. That's the law of karma, really, in effect, right there. But when we can be focused on the feeling of love, the feeling of appreciation, the feeling of gratitude, the feeling of, oh, my life is so much better now, we are fueling the preponderance of those thoughts towards the thing that we are manifesting. And so we want to make sure that we have that pillar in place, as well as an unwillingness. The third pillar of that is an unwillingness to entertain the opposite. Okay. I know that sounds like a lot of work, and it is in a certain way, but it's worth it. If your life turns out the way you want it to be, you won't entertain anything other than that. And I know it's difficult at times, because whatever you're focused your attention on, things that are unlike that jump up and say howdy, right? But we need to say, I'm not entertaining you. You don't fit into the vision that I have for my life. You don't fit into what it is I want to create. So I will not entertain you. So those are the three pillars that I say are part of the creative process. So this week, I want you to think about how law and love create a better life for you. Think about the things that you have been thinking about, the preponderance of your thought, and ask yourself if those thoughts serve you. Look into the beliefs that you hold about prosperity or love or health or any of those things. Think about, what beliefs you have. Decide whether you want to change them, get rid of them, or want to keep them. And really allow yourself to embrace the idea that it's not you loving someone else. You're not going to be in judgment. You're not going to you're not going to idealize them. You're just going to say, am I experiencing the love of God through that person, right? And keep yourself open to that love of God coming through somebody you may not have usually been attracted to, right? Because the love of God shows up in the most unique and extraordinary ways if we're willing to allow that process to take place. So will you do that with me this week? Will you really look at how spiritual law supports your creation and how love supports your creation and how the creative process works in your life? Let's have a prayer. So right now, I just turn my awareness to the infinite power, the infinite presence, the infinite life of God. To that place within me that knows beyond human understanding just how powerful God is. That is where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very life, my very being. It is who and what I am. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that is God flowing through me as it flows through all of life. I know the same truth to be so for this wonderful team that God has provided for. We are one in the infinite power, infinite presence of God. For Faith and Lynn and Oz and Tina and Elaine and Karen, we are one. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows equally through all. I know that same truth to be so for everyone here, whether in real time or later on. For we are all one, connected by it, through it, as it. There's no place where one leaves off and the other begins. And that same ancient wisdom of the ages flows through each of us equally. And so I do know that it flows through everyone watching as well. Mitakuye Oyasin, all my brethren, we are related. And so I know this coming week is with an absolute awareness of just how powerfully spiritual laws work in our life, that we can utilize them to our benefit, that we have an effect on our world through love and through law, because that is the way it works. That is the way creation works. That's the way life works. That's the way God works. That is the way the spiritual world works. So I bless this week with experiences of that, so we can see for ourselves just how powerfully that works in our lives. And I know for each name that is in the ministry of prayer today, that same power, that same presence, that same life, that same love, because that is the truth behind all of the craziness, all of the situations that we feel like we can't conquer. God has already conquered them. And so in that knowingness, in that place of knowingness right here, right now, I pull back the veil and I reveal that truth here and now, and I claim it as good and very good in their name. And so right now, my heart fills with gratitude to know that this is so, to let it be, to be of service in this way. And so it is. Amen.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is blessing to the world. are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth. And who you are and all you do is blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth. And who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth. And who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. The heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth. And who you are and all we do is a blessing to the world.
Thank you, Faith. So this is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to share with gratitude that which you have already received in the physical realm, or that which you have created in the mind of God and have not yet seen in the physical realm. Excuse me. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to go to www.oasiscsl.org and say the offering affirmation with me. It's about 2/3 down the page. And then underneath that is a contribute now button. And so I want to talk a little bit about contribution before we move on to that. In a facility, when we were in a facility, there was rent and utilities, and there was all these associated costs that had to do with the facility that you were contributing to. Well, we're not in a facility, so there are none of those costs associated with it. But we do have a marketing cost to be able to offer this to the world. And our vision is the healed world. And our mission to get there is healing the world one person at a time. Now, we already have people in the UK or England, people in the Netherlands or Holland. I get confused with all these other names. I'm used to saying Holland and England and Great Britain or whatever, but trying to get used to all of those. Germany is another one. We have people from Philippines. We have people from India who tune in. But I'd like it to be global. I'd like it to be not just a few countries. I'd like every country to participate in hearing the message of God through us. So when you contribute, what you're doing is you are helping us through our mission get to our vision. Because like I said, marketing does cost money. So that's what you're contributing to. So right now, whether you're watching in real time or later on, please go now to www.oasiscsl.org, and about 2/3 down the page, say this offering affirmation with me. This perfect gift is spirit in form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive, and so it is. Hit that contribute now button and help us reach our vision through our mission. All right, we have this wonderful team of licensed practitioners from coast to coast that are the healing arm of the church, and they perform 3 different functions. One is that if you would like prayer for something, you put it in the comments section, and we will make sure that they pray on those every day for a week. We call our licensed practitioners the God Squad. I have this whole imagery about them marching in and taking, just powerful, right? And so we call them the God Squad. So if you would like prayer for something, put it in the comments section, and we'll make sure that the God Squad gets those prayer requests. They will pray on those every day for a week. If you don't want it to be public, just DM Faith, and she'll make sure the God Squad gets that request. The second way in which our licensed practitioners participate is that they offer spiritual guidance for sessions for a fee by appointment. So if you would like a spiritual guidance session, what you're going to do is you're going to reach out to them on Facebook and let them know, message them, and let them know that you would like a session. They will let you know how to pay for it. I don't get involved in that. Some of them use Wise, some use PayPal, some use Venmo, some use Cash App, Zelle. I don't get involved in that. They have their own separate businesses. So each one decides how they're going to do it. And they will let you know how to pay for it. Once it's paid for, they will reach out to you at your appointed time by video chat. And then finally, the third thing that they do that they serve our church with is what Oz is doing today, and that is being a practitioner of the day. He's available for what we call our 1 minute miracle. That's not a time for counseling, but it is a time where you can let him know whatever issue you're dealing with, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then and there. If he doesn't answer, you reach out through video chat. If he's not available at the moment, it's probably because he's on with somebody else. So just try back a little bit later. But those are the ways that our licensed practitioners serve this church. All right. We have this wonderful vendor for our mala beads. This is an amethyst mala bead necklace. It's $60, but they have other gemstones that are $30 and up for the necklaces. And then they have bracelets too. The necklaces have 108 beads, and the Hindus and the Buddhists use those to do their chants. So they move one bead, do a chant. You move another bead, do a chant. We recommend that you do this because I say do 100 affirmations a day. There's 108 beads on the necklace, so that's going through the necklace once a day. The bracelets have 54, so you just go through the bracelets twice, and you get your 100 affirmations a day. And you can reach them through brooksandbailey0307@gmail.com or through their Facebook page. But all of the benefits go to Rocky Mountain Lab Rescue, which I find to be a very worthy cause. And whenever they are doing a show or something like that, I always try to share it on my page. So the necklaces are good quality. Everything, all their jewelry is good quality. They do other things besides mala beads, but everything is really good quality. So definitely check these ladies out. All right. And then we have an Etsy store by Angel Renee that has intention candles and a tea bag that you take and put in your bathtub. So it helps you focus on your intention through the use of aromatic herbs that she puts in there. All right. And then we have Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver's website up. Her website, she isn't able to change it to change the form of payment. So you'll have to look on there, see what album. Do you know what album that came, or what CD that came off of?
That one was
what?
Ernest, the Words of Ernest Holmes.
Oh, Words of Ernest Holmes. Yeah, that's right. She took a lot of Dr. Ernest Holmes' work and put it to words. That's right. Oh, put it to music. And so that's off of the Ernest Holmes one. Anyway, you go on there, you look and see which CD you want, and then you contact her by email and let her know that you want that CD. She travels around the country singing, and she always carries them in her trunk. And so once you pay for it, she'll let you know how to pay for it. And once you pay for it, she's really good about sending it out, and you get it right away. The other one is Karen Drucker's website. Hers does work. You can pay right there for either a song or an entire CD. She has it by karaoke file, by songbook, all different ways, and you can pay for it right then and there. Excuse me. And then there's our website, www.oasiscsl.org, where you can find video sermons from the last 3 years, audio sermons from all the years prior, and pictures of events that we've had at the church so you can get to know your spiritual family. All right. Oz? You're muted.
I know right here, right now, that God's presence is infinite and eternal. It is in all things, as all things, and as we go forward into the week, God's presence uplifts and upholds us through all that we see, all that we do, and all that we experience. I give thanks for this loving presence, and I let it be, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. All right. Thank you for being here today. I know there's 1,000 things you could be doing on a Sunday morning. We're blessed to have you with us. Tune in next week and every week at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Next week, we're continuing with the Back to Basics series, and we'll be talking about what it does. So definitely tune in. Until then, stay safe. We love you. Bye.